Welcome back to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are here today with a very special guest who's got some amazing stories to share and insight for us. Rebecca, tell us who we have today.
Well, we finally nabbed Shelly Sun. Shelly Sun is the CEO and founder of Brightstar Group Holdings, Inc., the parent company of Brightstar Care and Brightstar Senior Living and Memory Care. Brightstar Care is a premium healthcare staffing company providing a full continuum of care from home care to supplemental staffing for corporate clients such as nursing homes and physicians. Brightstar's focus on quality assurance and improvement includes requiring Joint Commission accreditation for all of its branches. Brightstar Care is also the only company of over 28,000 home care agencies to receive the Joint Commission's Enterprise Champion for Quality Award every year since 2013, all the way through 2020. Brightstar was founded in 2002 and expanded through franchising in 2005. Today, Brightstar has grown to over 340 locations, represented by 200 small businesses across the U.S. Brightstar serves over 20,000 families through the care provided by over 15,000 certified nursing assistants and over 25,000 nurses, or 2,500 nurses. Brightstar's Care is consistently named in Forbes' top 10 franchises under 150,000 initial investment. Shelly was named IFA's 2009 Entrepreneur of the Year and is a certified franchise executive and was listed in Inc.'s top 100 female founders issue 2020. Shelly Sun and Brightstar were featured on CBS's Undercover Boss. Shelly also published her first book, Grow Smart, Risk Less, where she discusses her journey as an emerging franchisor through amazing growth, lessons learned, and game-changing ideas, and has a Harvard Business School case study written about Brightstar's growth story under Shelly's leadership. Welcome, Shelly. We're so glad you could come.
Oh, it's so great to see you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Oh, we're so happy. We know it's tough to carve out some time, but your wisdom and your knowledge is going to be so important for us to pass on to our listeners, as you know, that are primarily women. So Elizabeth, you have our first question, right?
I do. And we are excited to have you here as one of our purposes and passions is to talk to women like you and to have others be able to learn from your experience, especially women who are coming up through the ranks. And one of the things that we believe, according to our title, is that the place where passion and purpose collide is where you find your most success, both personally and professionally. So the first question is how do you combine, first of all, define your passion and your purpose and how you combine that into your personal and professional lives?
Yeah, thank you. So I started Brightstar Care back in 2002. So I had gone through a family journey looking for care for my grandmother and had difficulty finding the full continuum of care. So about a year after that journey, did a lot of research during that year, talked to a lot of other families who might have been living a similar journey and felt like there was an unmet need. So started Brightstar again to take care of moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas, right? And it's been, my passion from day one, still my passion today. Probably 10 times a week, I'm connecting friends or friends of friends to a franchisee office directly. Whenever I'm asked personally about care from someone who's in my network, I don't just send them off. I personally get involved. I'll do weekend calls on Zoom with a franchisee to help get a case set up, right? And it's not about the revenue. It's about like helping someone through a really trying time, make sure I can add that personal connection. So something that was my passion is still my passion. It's what drives me each and every single day with the business. And I think, bringing that into it kind of is, my personal and professional life, right? I live it 24/7. I think about it all the time, but I think the honor that I've had over the last few years is to bring my boys into it as well. They're still only 15 and a half years, so there's no child labor involved yet, but I have a dear patient that I had taken care of for years. Tim and his wife Anne was a quadriplegic with me since 2002. And in 2018 on Labor Day, I was able to bring my boys to visit Tim and Anne and spend some time. And in Tim's own words, for something that I couldn't probably have helped my boys see, but he said to my boys, you know, if it wasn't for your mama, I would have died probably 10 years ago. And it means I never would have seen my first grandchild, let alone my third and fourth grandchild be born. I wouldn't have seen my daughters get married. Your mom helps people live their best lives. And for me, just live my life. And my son, Luke, who is special needs, looked at me and goes, Mama, you keep people alive. He goes, I know you work all the time. You're always on your phone. But now I understand like what you do. The following Labor Day, so Labor Day 2019, Tim passed away. He was well past his life expectancy, but he'd been so intertwined into my life and my family's life. When my boys were born preemie, the first gift I got, only the first grandkids on both sides of the family, only grandchildren, because I'm an only child and my ex is an only child, only grandchildren on both sides of the family. And the first gift we got was from Tim and Anne. Anne asked me to deliver part of Tim's eulogy. And it's probably been one of the highlights of my, I still get busy thinking about it. One of the highlights of my personal and professional career, to know that you could have such an impact on another life and do good while also having it intertwined with something that's become my professional day-to-day, but feels so good personally day-to-day.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me, and I think this is why your story and your message hits home with so many people. So many of us have been in that sandwich generation. And I experienced it with my mother when her mother was in a facility. She had dementia pretty badly. And my children were babies and I would take them with her. My mom visited every single day. I would go several times a week, and I took my boys when they were infants, 0, 2, and 4, and 2, 4, and 6. And the things that I think they learned from that are so critical to who they are. They're so respectful of their elders and of their older family members. And I think they learned that empathy and compassion and caring. So I think it's such a beautiful thing that you have been able to bring your boys into that situation, because not only is it beneficial to the older patients or residents, because it gives them joy and gives them something to look forward to, but it's beneficial to your children to learn the lessons of what it means to love and care for somebody. So I just think it hit home for me because we went through a similar thing. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. So Shelly, I've got an opportunity to watch your boys grow up while you're growing a business, you're growing a family, and you're growing a business. And to live your purpose day in and day out, and to build these meaningful long-term relationships are so powerful. But you mentioned even your boy said, "Oh, Mom, you're so busy. You're on the phone and you're doing this and you're working and you're helping people." How do you manage it all, this personal life? And because I know your commitment to your children and to your family, and you got an extensive array of close-knit friends that you have, that you're maintaining those relationships, and you're growing this business. How do you do it all? How do you manage both sides of your business, the personal as well as the professional?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think we put a lot of expectations as a society and us on ourselves as women. The same questions we frequently don't ask of men, right? Right. Or fathers. And so while we're, mothers and fathers are all involved in their kids' lives, I think for me, it's about giving myself permission to not be perfect every single day, and look at my journey as a woman, as a mother, and as an entrepreneur over a month, and make sure that I have quality time and I've made a positive impact in all three areas as a woman, with my friends and others I can help with care, with my boys. They're a critical age, 15 and a half, and I'm teaching them both how to drive right now. Goodness help me. And then with my business, both in terms of who we take care of, but also developing and nurturing the most amazing team, I believe, in any business. I'm very blessed. But on any given day, look, there's some days I'm a better entrepreneur than I am a mom, and there's other days I'm a better mom than I am an entrepreneur. I think for me, going through this journey, my boys are 15 and a half. Every day they've been alive, I've been running a business. And I started it, 3 to 4 years before they were born. So that entire journey has been, I'm frequently up at 5:30. I get a workout in. That's my time. Boys aren't up now, Saturday and Sunday much later, Monday through Friday up for school. And I try to have breakfast with them, get their day started. And then I'm working, during the day. I'm frequently try to be done with work by 3 or 3:30. So that when we were picking them up from school, I'd pick them up from school. I do homework, and I made them a home cooked meal every day, or nearly every day. And, probably out of 20 school days a month, probably 10 to 12 would have dinner and homework with them. Not so bad, of a batting average for an entrepreneur. But that had to be an okay batting average. Life is too short for guilt. And I know I've made a positive impact on their life. I know they see me as a role model. COVID was if you can say, an opportunity for that. You will do anything for your children, right? I moved back in with my ex-in-laws and ex-husband to raise my children in the same household because they needed that. And my business was 24 hours a day in healthcare, trying to get PPE from all over the globe and get every franchisee PPP loans. And my boys got to see a great work ethic, a great compassion, but I took 10 minutes every hour to come hug and kiss them, make sure they had a snack, half an hour. My in-laws live in Arizona, to take them swimming a couple times a day. And so, while I'd still be up on my laptop until midnight almost every single day during COVID, I took the critical times to have dinner with my kids and take them out swimming a couple of times. It's about scheduling, and for me, it's about scheduling in. We shouldn't have to think about scheduling in breaks with our kids, but I scheduled in 15 minutes every hour so that I wouldn't piggyback on myself or get on the phone to go spend time with my kids, because that's as important. And as much as my franchisees needed me and my team needed me and I needed them, my boys need me too. And so for me, it's about scheduling in everything that's important. But if it's not scheduled in, sometimes it doesn't get prioritized. And for me, it's like letting myself off the hook that over the month, not over a day, I will never be great at all three in a 24-hour period of time. 2 of the 3 will usually do pretty well on a daily basis. It just differs which 2 of the 3 are going to win on a given day, and that has to be okay.
I think that's huge. You and I have a similar philosophy on that, and I think that because I have a child who's very, very focused on work-life balance, and they're only 20s, talking about it all the time. And I said, I don't think there's such a thing. I think it's about priorities. And if your family and your children and your friends know they have priority, if somebody really needs you, you're going to drop what you're doing.
Yep.
You're going to be there for the big events. You're going to show up when but also, what do you think, I wanted to follow up with, how important do you think it is for your children, especially boys? I have 3 boys and 2 girls. And for both sets, I think it's so important to have them see you participating in your life in the way that drives you, whatever your passion is, whatever your purpose is, whether you're working mom or stay-at-home mom. How critical is it to you to have them see you doing what your dream is?
I think that's really important. I think it's also really important for me as a mom, and I'm a divorced mom, so I'm feeling like I've got the responsibility to raise them and set a good example. And I grew up in the South. There's a certain way that a boy should treat a girl, and if they're not going to learn that elsewhere, I'm going to teach them they have to open the door. And they have to have mommy walk through first, and they need to clear the table and do their dishes. I mean, it's not just about seeing my professional work ethic. It's also about seeing that they need to contribute. and say thank you for a dinner that's made for them,
Right.
and help in their small way by clearing the table and doing the dishes. And so it's about, how do you treat others? And my hope would be is not only am I teaching them how to be a great boss or entrepreneur one day, but also how to be a great human, a great boyfriend, a great husband one day, because I think that's part of a holistic life. And whatever their life journey is, partner, girlfriend, marriage, I want them to be able to have seen, even though they're not seeing me in a married relationship anymore. I want them to know that they can bring their whole self to a relationship, and how they need to show up will impact what their life will have an opportunity to look like, not just the work ethic. So I try to take time and spend time on all of that. And when they use, language I don't approve of in my house, I tell them why that's not acceptable in my house. They can, have different rules in different places, but this is what I think the world and girlfriends are going to look at. There's certain words that girls find offensive and they don't want to hear. And it's only up to me to give them the role model I can for their holistic life while I have them.
That's beautiful. So Shelly, you are like this perfect mom in my mind, and this incredible.
No such thing.
We're working towards it. So you've given a ton of advice already to a woman coming up through the ranks, and whether it's in the corporate environment or as an entrepreneur herself, that's a mom, juggling her whole situation. But if you could give one piece of advice to anyone that is in a similar situation, what would that advice be? What would the takeaway be as a woman to lead a more balanced life? What would you recommend?
I think one of the things that's been very helpful to me, and it's evolved with time, is finding mentors or advisors. And so when I think about the first board of directors that I set out to form for me, I asked everybody I knew, because I'm in Chicago, if anyone knew Gloria Jean, that founded Gloria Jean's Coffee, or Seattle Sutton, because I wanted a female role model that had grown a business that was going to leverage franchising, because I was trying to figure out franchising, and also how in the world do they do it, raising a family at the same time, and the sacrifices on both sides that had to be made to both build a business and be a mom. And I got very blessed that I networked to Gloria Jean. I actually just talked to her last week. She was a mentor. She's become just a dear friend. But that would be my recommendation, is think about, and for me, it was franchising, and I had two people that I wanted, but I think there are a lot of role models. I think, especially if you can find someone local, because I don't travel for boards. I've got, I'm here with my boys, right? So, but I will do service work, but I do that by phone. And so I would think about, if I was a woman coming through the ranks, whether that's corporate America and there's a job you want, is there someone at that level who's also a working mom that's willing to have coffee with you one day a month? All they can do is say no. Ask 5, you'll get 1 yes. And I think that's true for entrepreneurs as well. And just like in everything else we want in life, you got to be willing to take a risk and ask. And my experience has been, more often than not, people will be willing to help. It might not be, a formal board position. It might not be at every month, but a quarterly coffee, everybody has time for a quarterly coffee.
It's interesting. I have a similar situation where I've looked at the different areas of my life, whether that's relational, financial, or whatever it is, and I will find someone who's mastered that particular thing, and ask to spend time, or if it's someone, that you can read about or listen to their podcast or whatever. So you want to find a mentor that has achieved or is or what you want to become, and then emulate it, right? And if you can get mentored, even better, but at minimum emulate it in some way. That's to me just brilliant advice. I wanted to go back to something else you said before we go on to our next series of questions, and you said something about guilt. The guilt has no place in life, I think is how you put it. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that? Because that is like You knocked it out of the park with that. What do you mean by that? And why is guilt so terrible?
Well, I mean, I just see a lot of the interviews I've had over the years, like, how do you deal with a mother's guilt of trying to build a business and, work out for yourself and see friends and be a mom? And that's just a wasted emotion for me. I can't do it. And that's taking me away mentally and emotionally from what I could otherwise be spending time on and giving my best self to. So it's something I really try hard not to have. That to me, it's a negative emotion, and it doesn't allow me to show up as fully present. Oftentimes, in the past, when I've let myself kind of have society make me feel guilty that I'm not able to be super mom, right? And superwoman. And, you feel like 24 hours a day, like having your hair done, your makeup done for your mate. And, you're calling every single friend and your kids. Yes, I'd love to do homework with you. They've changed algebra. Like they don't even work things math wise the same way that they did when we were growing up. I'm like, so, how is that all possible and be there for every single employee and all of that? It's just impossible to do it all. Do your best. And if I've given my best, I've given all I have to give. And so for me, I think particularly as women, and I think even just the questions that typically get asked, there's an embedded predisposition that we should feel guilt. And
Yes.
I just think life is way too short. And our male counterparts do not get asked the same thing, and they're not made to feel like they should have any guilt. So why should we? Free ourselves, do the best. If we're doing the best and doing it for the right reasons, that has to be good enough.
Beautiful.
I think that's brilliant. So brilliant, because the societal expectations that make women feel guilty, that we should only be mom, or that should be the only part of ourselves that's allowed to be successful. So I love that you're putting that out there, that we need to relieve ourselves of that guilt. Because I think we all have it sometimes. Like if you're a perfectionist, you feel guilty if you're not perfect at everything, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's a common trait in women that we all fight that, aside from societal expectations. So being able to say, I love the idea, look over a month, because it's such a better picture of who you are and what your life is like. I always, when I'm feeling down in the dumps, I do the 6-month rule. Am I better off now than I was 6 months ago? And usually the answer is yes. Yeah. And that kind of gives you that perspective. But that whole thing kind of brings us to you as a woman in leadership and how you've experienced that. Have you had challenges that you have found because you're a woman? Have you found that you have better insight as a woman? What kind of mentors that are men have you had that have helped you along the way? So give us a little perspective on that, what your experience has been like over the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoy my journey much more as an entrepreneur, kind of calling my own shots, so to speak. In corporate America, I did find, because I was the youngest vice president ever for CNA Insurance, right? I had a male boss who took all of my male peers to lunch every single day, and I was never invited. So I felt the good old boys club a little bit more in corporate America. I try not to have that in my organization. I try to treat, I have an amazing team, and I try to treat them all really well. I try to have a balance of gender within my organization, because to me, it's based on capabilities and performance, regardless of anything else, right? I'm very open-minded as long as people are performing. And so, I think externally, I have found, Gloria Jean, as I've mentioned, is a female mentor. But I have had many mentors, male and female. I think it's just about asking. My first franchise event ever was at a leadership and development conference with, Gary and Teresa's conference. And the day before the conference started, there was a pre-conference. It was my first franchise event, and I sat there with my notes in the first row, and it was Tom Wood, who's become one of my dearest friends in the entire world, and I travel with he and Elizabeth. I take my son for his college visit to Georgia Tech, and we stayed with them. They are sweetest people in the entire world. Brian Schnell was on that group, and Kurt Landwehr. And I followed up with all three of them and asked them if I could spend time with them, on a weekly basis or every other week basis to just pick their brain and learn from them. And all three said yes. Tom's become one of my dearest friends, as this one of the smartest people I know, and is great, and has married very well because Elizabeth is a doll. And Brian Schnell went on one of my board advisors, kind of in the growth of my business. And Kurt spent Thursday evenings and Saturday mornings mentoring me for probably 3 months, because I'm an accountant. I don't know how to do franchise sales. I have passion, but franchise sales is not really my thing. Sales in general is not really my thing. So he mentored me for several months, but I asked, and all three said yes. I have an amazing board of directors right now. David Barr, who was the past chair of the International Franchise Association as well. Sid Feltenstein, who's also been past chair of the International Franchise Association. I'm blessed to be part of Young Presidents Organization, YPO, and I do a year at Harvard every single year because I want to make myself continue to be better as a leader, and no one knows it all. And through that, my favorite professor at Harvard is Boris Groysberg, and he joined my board as well a few years ago after doing the case study, and we got closer during that. And so I felt brave enough to ask this Harvard Business School professor. I said, I feel like an imposter every year. I went to University of Tennessee. There's no way I could have gotten into or afforded Harvard. So I feel like an imposter every year, but it's fantastic. And then Sid got me my first female board member on my current board, Pam Parisian, who was the chief technology officer of all of AT&T for 20 years, wow. And absolutely amazing. So I've got 3 men and 1 woman on my board, and all 4 are both really supportive, always texting me back, always emailing, checking on me, especially during COVID, and have been invaluable to my business. So I think having those mentors and around is really, really important. And it has been invaluable to help me have a support system. I think the biggest thing that changed for me coming out of corporate America to being an entrepreneur is, in corporate America, if you really performed, people gave you, good job and high performance reviews and, those kind of things. When you're an entrepreneur, it's a pretty thankless job, especially during a pandemic. Everybody's stressed, right? And so helping franchisees get PPP loans, some of the emails I got were not the nicest. Now, 100% of them got PPP loans, and, everybody seemed kumbaya now, but there were some really lonely, hard days during that journey. And my board, when I was kind of sharing the updates and what I was doing and how we were progressing, and some of the responses from some of my franchisees, they were my biggest cheerleaders and support mechanisms, because I don't have a boss, right? I still own 100% of my company. So my board is not a voting board, but they were my biggest supporters and cheerleaders when I needed it. And I didn't really have that outlet because my organization was kind of counting on me every single day. So they helped reinforce my spirits while that was all going on.
It's such a large responsibility. And it's so funny that you say imposter syndrome, because Rebecca and I talk about that a lot on the show, because so many people that we interview who have achieved great success still feel that way. So especially women. And so I love that you have that board. Everybody needs somebody to be their cheerleader, especially on those hard days when you're shouldering that level of responsibility for everyone else's success as much as your own. So I think it's so nice that you're able to say that out loud and show people that we all go through self-doubt, and here's how I combat that. I have my little cheering section. I lean on these people who can help me. I have these mentors. I mean, all very, very strong lessons for women in business, I think.
Yes, it is. So, Shelly, we're talking about mentors, especially as entrepreneurs, and being an entrepreneur myself, I can fully relate where you are and the importance of those people in our lives. But you've also stepped out and mentored others. It's kind of the one hand up, one hand down kind of thing. I would think that would be very rewarding to help others succeed. Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very rewarding. I mean, that my hardest part is I don't have hours enough to do it for everyone who might ask. It's actually why I wrote the Grow Smart Risk Less book. Is I wrote it during the same time I knew Undercover Boss was going to be released. And I ventured to guess that there would be a lot of entrepreneurs who would be reaching out to me. How can I grow my business? Or I hadn't thought about franchising. And it's difficult for me to say no. I think it's difficult for women to say no. But yet trying to run my business and trying to be a mom, I can't say yes to everything. So writing the book was a way to say, I'm going to transparently share everything I did. Here's everything I got right. Here's every mistake I made. Here's my organizational charts for the first 5 years. Here's how I evolved them. All of that, somewhat dry, but a blueprint for like, how do you decide whether you should franchise your business or not? And so when I have people reach out to me now, I'll be like, read the book. And then if you have a series of questions and you put that on an agenda, I'll do a call with you. I typically mentor 20 to 30 people every single year. I have mentees that I mentored 10 years ago, Nick that runs College Hunks Hauling Junk. I mean, we still talk probably once a quarter at least. And those are relationships I've had for, a really long time. And now they could mentor me practically. So that's been fun to watch. At IFA, there's many of the hours where I might not go in and do all the roundtables. I do half an hour speed dating with the people who have wanted to like do a mentee appointment. So I'll typically do 10, 15 meetings while I'm at IFA with up and coming franchisors. And I love doing that. Right now, I'm working with my alma mater, University of Tennessee, to endow a franchise program nice. Because I want to help those who see franchising either as a franchisee or a franchisor or franchisor executive be able to learn some of those lessons before it's really expensive lessons after you've already started. And I think franchising is the way that we're going to, restart our country. It is living the American dream without taking as many risks to have to figure out every single mistake on your own, leveraging a franchise model. And so for me, how can I make that more accessible? And so one of the things I'm doing with the university is it's great to have on-campus education, but we need to make this education available remotely. So anyone in the country could tap into franchise education. And so I'm getting really involved and really passionate on that. It's my way. How do I reach more people to make an impact at scale? Some of my network during franchising, I do have great relationships, and David Barr and John Rocci are with Franworth. We ordered in over $2 million of PPE for all of our franchisees, and once I had them with the PPE they needed to keep their caregivers and nurses safe, I realized I had excess capacity. And a lot of franchisees that I know, Tam Kennedy's a dear friend of mine, Taco John's, they didn't have some of the PPE they needed to open. I'm like, Tam, is this crazy? But could we work with IFA and could I bring the inventory warehouse management system that Franworth helped me set up to open this up at cost, not even carrying cost, no admin cost, to open this up to franchising? Let's get the country restarted with our PPE. And so Tam helped me with the franchisee forum at IFA, and the IFA team was great. And so, some of those relationships have helped, do more for more people. And I'm big on that, whether it's mentoring or just getting businesses open through supply chain too.
Okay, Shelly, we're seeing one of your handsome sons in the background, we think.
Oh,
hi, sweetie.
Come here, baby.
Hey, Luke.
Say hi. Can I make an appearance? This is Luke.
Luke, we want to see your handsome face.
Down, see your handsome face.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi, Luke.
Oh, okay.
My goodness, he's a man. He's a man.
Virtual school.
Yeah.
Love it.
We have that too. I have a Luke, so I'm partial to Luke's.
So, Shelly, that brings us to our last question. What's next? What's the next thing in your life? What's your big, bodacious goals? What's in the next season?
I mean, it's continuing to help families and hopefully help more of them. I think the healthcare continuum is continuing to need to work together. And so I think we're really working on a lot of things with AI and virtual care technology on how can we be a part of impacting more lives, but also recognizing as a holistic society, we have to bend the cost curve and improve the outcomes for all. And so we really spend a lot of time thinking about that and trying to be a part of making a difference. All families have an individual choice to make, and not the right decision for one family is different one family to another. So we, obviously started, with Bright Star Care doing home care for 20 years almost. And in 2014, we opened up our first senior living community with 40 rooms, where it's like moving from home to bed and breakfast. I really wanted to take that stigma away from a senior living setting. Half of it's memory care, half of it's senior living. And unlike most assisted living, if someone moves in and they need higher acuity, they never have to leave our assisted living to move to a nursing home. Once it's home forever. And that's expensive to do, but important for a family. And we find lots of spouses or lots of couples where one spouse is in memory care and one spouse is in assisted living. And that's a part of being part of the journey. So opening more of those, we have 4 right now, opening more of those is important. And then we're launching into care homes as well, which are, 8 to 10 rooms, not as high acuity. But again, for some families, depending on budget and socialization, they might choose that as part of their continuum. So we just want to meet families where they are, continuing to mentor, be as involved in the IFA as they'll have me as a past chair. We tend to get erased, but trying to make an impact as much as I can. And the University of Tennessee franchise program is real important to me. I love franchising. Franchising has helped me reach more families by having these passionate individuals run a Bright Star location, independently owned and operated in a community, and give their passion to something each and every day. So I believe in franchising wholeheartedly. So being able to be a part of that. And the boys are 2.5 years from going off to college. So what am I going to do to fill my time when they go off? There might be a Shelly booked version 2.
Yes, I look forward to that.
Okay, Shelly, final question. If people would like to get a hold of you to learn more about your franchise system or request a mentor appointment, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Thank you. So brightstarcare.com is the franchise brand. I think there's a contact us. I'm sure they could put in information. I'm going to make sure if it's about franchising, that they've read the book first, because my experience is it takes 6 hours worth of questions and 30 minutes can get the job done if there's that kind of background.
Right.
But yeah, if the franchising is something to look at, or for all of us that are the sandwich generation, and you said that, Elizabeth, right? If we can do anything to be of service for anyone's families, we're here for that as well.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us today, Shelly.
My pleasure.
I know folks are going to get great value out of your story, as well as some of the advice that you gave. So thank you for your time.
My pleasure.